What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. I kind of want to start this off by taking a look at some of the major injuries for the Dallas Cowboys. So it looks like Micah Parsons has a major injury that's going to affect the roster makeup for a couple of weeks. And it looks like Demarcus Lawrence has an even more major injury that's going to affect the roster makeup for about a month or two. So this is going to be a pretty big loss for the Cowboys, especially with an opponent like the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up. Dallas Cowboys are going to go on the road. Steelers, even though they lost this week, they are 3-1. They have a terrific defense. They have some just dynamic pass rushers. They have great safeties. They're pretty much good on every single level. So it's going to be a tough week for the Cowboys to get through this game. Missing Micah Parsons and missing Demarcus Lawrence. I know I talked about Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but of course you know there's Justin Fields on that other side with the offense. There's Najee Harris. There's Pickens. So there's going to be a lot of different players there that the Cowboys are going to have to defend, mainly being Justin Fields and his feet in the unscheduled portion of the play. And by unscheduled, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that before, but just in case you haven't, unscheduled means, hey, drop back to pass, play breaks down, I have to scramble, left, right, whatever have you. Okay, I'm going to take off and try to get yards on my feet, or I'm going to press the line of scrimmage and cause the linebackers and the corners to come up because I'm so dynamic with my legs, and now I can, throw a pass off schedule to one of my playmakers, have them get yards after the catch, cause some problems for the Cowboys defense. So a player like Micah Parsons is so fast, wins so quickly off the line of scrimmage, even though that hasn't been as true this season. And the reason it hasn't been as true this season, I think that's more of what the scheme is asking him to do than his individual effort. A lot of times the scheme right now is tasked with stopping the run because that's the Cowboys' biggest problem. So you don't get to be dynamic rushing the passer if you're not stopping the run. And the Cowboys, of course, have not been stopping the run this season, save week one in Cleveland and this most recent game against the Giants. But even in this most recent game against the Giants, where the Cowboys did stop the run very well, when the Giants got into passing situations, Micah Parsons wasn't really affecting Daniel Jones much. He was getting pretty much blocked up. I do think that's a Giants thing because I take a look at last year when the Cowboys played the Giants, middle of the season around that Thanksgiving time, and the Giants had three backup offensive linemen in, and Micah Parsons got nothing. He didn't get anything. So the Giants have this scheme. I don't know what it is, but they have something schemed up to take care of Micah Parsons that a lot of other teams don't necessarily have. But now, with Micah Parsons being out and with Demarcus Lawrence being out, a lot of the teams that we're going to come up against in the next few weeks, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Detroit Lions, we'll see what happens with the 49ers game after the bye, but I'll just leave it to those two for right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Cowboys decide to play. Now, part of me hopes that with a more stout defensive end on one side, playing defensive end. So Michael Parsons has pretty much been your starting defensive end because of Sam Williams' situation. So Mike Zerman hasn't gotten to use him as much as a chess piece to move around the line of scrimmage and when teams are in obvious passing situations, bring him from all kind of creative ways, dropping him out into coverage. He hasn't got to do that much this season because the Cowboys haven't stopped the run. So it'll be interesting to see with a person like Marshawn Nealon or a person like Chauncey Golston, kind of being your anchors at defensive end with the other two guys out, if they'll stop the run better, but maybe be worse against the pass and be worse of a pressure defense because those dynamic pass rushers, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, aren't on the field. I know what we say about DeMarcus Lawrence's sack numbers, but he actually had 3 sacks in 4 games this season, so he was getting, to the quarterback, and if I think he actually had 4 sacks, but I guess maybe the 2 sacks against the Cleveland Browns, maybe they didn't give him credit for one, because I also know that he did get a sack against the Saints, and he got a sack against the Giants as well. So maybe they only gave him credit for one of those sacks against the Browns, but I thought he had 4, but they say 3, so it is what it is. Hey, I'm not going to argue with the stat guys. But he actually is the team leader in sacks this year, which is crazy. I know it's September, so it's a long season. We'll see how that all works itself out. But for right now, those injuries are going to be pretty big for the Cowboys. So I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a big picture look right now, this episode, because we're 4 games into the season. We have a quarter of the season, or a little less than a quarter, maybe about 22%, 23% now with the 17th game. But basically, 4 games in, first month of the season in the bag. Let's take a look at kind of some of the things that the Cowboys, have struggled with, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and where can they improve and where won't they improve. So, kind of my first quarter of the season defensive player that's been the biggest standout to me. I probably said this name a couple of times over these episodes, but DeMarvion Overshown, man, he's been everywhere. He's been everything that we needed him to be. It makes me very disappointed that Dan Quinn didn't get to work with him at the end of last season, because I think he could have really helped our defense in some of the situations that we were struggling with. But it's so awesome to see him as a player playing well, moving around after the injury, flying to the ball. And if this is how he's playing at this time in the season without much experience and coming off an injury, I can only imagine what he's going to look like in October, November, December, as he gets more confidence in that knee, as he sees more NFL offenses, as he gets more of a beat on what teams are trying to do to him and how they're trying to scheme him and take him from away from making so many big plays. I think Overshown's going to be, one of those Cowboys that's going to be amazing for his entire career. Not the size, but the instincts and the tackling. He reminds me so much of Sean Lee. He sees a play, he diagnoses it, he goes. The Cowboys haven't had that at linebacker in a long time, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him for the rest of the season grow. Another star up for the first, and I'm now going to give you one on offense. Cooper Beebe, man. He's been playing well. A lot of people have made a big deal about this game against the Giants, about him allowing 0 pressures against Lawrence. But take that with a grain of salt, because he also got help in double teams quite a bit of time during the game. So either Zach Martin or Tyler Smith was helping him double team Dexter Lawrence for pretty much the entire game. So he's been playing awesome. I'm not saying he hasn't. Obviously, I'm here talking to you about me giving him a star up. But what I'm also saying is, don't take those pressure numbers against the Giants and think, oh my God, he blocked Dexter Lawrence. He's the effing man. He is the effing man, but it wasn't like he was left in there, because most of the time you don't want to be helping your center. You want your center one-on-one, working that thing, and then also, when he's not covered up and he doesn't have a man, looking for somebody to block, right? Either helping combo with the guard on either side, or get into the second level in the run game and cutting off some of those linebackers and some of those safeties looking to come down and help out in the run game. But nevertheless, even take that game aside, in the other 3 games he's played pretty well. He's been pretty much everything we've wanted him to be from the jump. And for a player that also has not played center since high school, right? So he's playing a new position in the offense. And then he's coming in as a 3rd round pick, and he's a rookie. Just imagine what you're going to get from Cooper Beebe, again, similar to Overshown, in October, November, December, as he gets to see more defenses, as he gets to see how people are going to attack him, as he gets to hear Dak Prescott make adjustments at the line of scrimmage, and he gets some of the help from Zach Martin and Tyler Smith, the mentoring. Cooper Beebe is definitely on his way. His ceiling is through the roof. I know I've heard a lot of people say, hey man, he can definitely be a Pro Bowl center for you. I beg to differ. Cooper Beebe can be an all-pro center for your team. So he's definitely, he's the best person that we've had in the middle since Travis Frederick. And that's saying a lot. I mean, Travis Frederick, he only played about 7 or 8 years, and in the Hall of Fame, since he retired, he's actually in the Hall of Fame voting this year. I don't think he's gonna make it. I don't think he'll ever make it. But you have a center who is your best center since your All Pro center from years ago. So I think Cooper Beebe, the sky's the limit, especially when you take a big picture view and you say beyond this season, the Cowboys going forward are in good hands with Cooper Beebe in the middle of that offensive line. And so for my third star up for the beginning of the season, Hunter Lipke as well. He's fullback for the Cowboys, but he's kind of been your do-it-all person. He's been making special teams tackles like crazy. He's made some gigantic plays in the passing game. He had the big fourth down run against the Giants, and it seems like the more that they put on his plate, the better he gets. He's one of those people that you're like, hey man, well, maybe you're not like, but I'm like, hey man, when you want to have Ezekiel Elliott in the game, anytime me as the coach and staff, I go, I got that Ezekiel Elliott itch. I need to put Zeke on the field. I'm just going to sit there and be like, every time I think like that, I'm going to call Hunter Lipke's name. Hunter, you're up, because I thought about Zeke. So, Hunter, you go in. Hunter, you run that short yardage play. Hunter, you pass protect. Hunter, you go out into the flat and get that pass and try to make something out of it. Ezekiel Elliott should not be touching the field. Any snap that you're thinking about giving to Ezekiel Elliott, you might as well just give it to Hunter Lipke, because he's been super productive in a short amount of snaps and in a short burst. And when a player does that, if we talk about football being a meritocracy, right, you need to give the player that's earning the snaps, definition of meritocracy, the player that's earning the snaps, right? Because if you're giving him 5 snaps in the first game and he does well, and then you're giving him 10 in the second game and he does well, and then you're giving him 15 in the third game and he does well, and you're giving him 20 in the fourth game and he does well. Naturally, that snap count needs to keep going up, right? And you don't need to let your disloyalty to Ezekiel Elliott keep a better player at this point, Hunter Lipke, off the field in favor of Ezekiel Elliott. At this point, you need to wash your hands of that and just call it a day, right? So those are my 3-star ups. Now, those are also coincidentally, because I told you I was going to say this, are my things that I feel like the Cowboys can get better at through the course of the season. I think seeing more Hunter Lipke. I think Cooper Beebe seeing more defenses. I think DeMarvion Overshown, getting more snaps in the base package and seeing more offenses. I think these are all things that are going to improve your team as the season goes along. This is one of the reasons why, I think the Cowboys might have a sliver of an opportunity to be a better team as the season goes along, because there are so many young players that are flashing now and might not have that consistency to be as great every single game. But as the season goes along and they start to mature and they start to understand things, will develop that consistency to be better players or more consistent players, right? Because they're good in a vacuum. You can take any one of these players that I talked about and you can go look at the game and you can see 50 snaps of them doing a good thing and 5 snaps of them doing fantastic things. And then maybe another 5 to 10 snaps of, oh, that's the rookie, that's the young guy, that's the inexperience. And as the season goes along, maybe that number or maybe that ratio changes and you get more fantastic snaps and good snaps and less that's a rookie, that's a young guy. So I really think those guys having a chance to improve the team and improve upon some of the things that the Cowboys are trying to develop. So my star down, number 1, sorry, I'm going with Mike McCarthy. Now, I'm not going with Mike McCarthy, the head coach. I think Mike McCarthy, the head coach, is actually exactly what the Cowboys need. I think he has a good demeanor. I think he has the air of his players. I think he has a good structure, and I think he has a good feel of what the team needs to do to be successful. So when I'm giving the star down, I'm actually giving the star down to Mike McCarthy, the play caller, right? There are so many times we'll see Hunter Lipke on the drag route, catch that ball, first down. CeeDee Lamb on plays outside the numbers. Dak Prescott hits a boom, long touchdown. Brandon Cooks being lined up behind Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson running a natural drag route, which picks the cornerback trying to guard Brandon Cooks, and then Brandon Cooks coming on a deep post over the middle. Boom, getting that big play. And then for the rest of the game, we never see anything similar again. I understand that NFL defenses are sophisticated. NFL defensive coordinators are like computers, right? You show us something, they process the information, and now when you show it to them again, they've made an adjustment. So I understand that. But why don't we see that look out of different formations, out of different movement? Why isn't Brandon Cooks being lined up behind CeeDee Lamb on some of those same plays, and CeeDee Lamb runs the slant as good as anybody in the league, and then Brandon Cooks runs the deep post or the over route or a crosser as good as anyone in the league, and then it takes advantage of his speed. Right now with all these comeback routes, we're treating Brandon Cooks like he's Des Bryant, like he's a 6'3", 215-pound receiver that's just built like a tank, and if you try to come out muscle me for this ball, you're going to be eating turf. That's not what Brandon Cooks does well. Brandon Cooks is a 4.33 speedster. He's a lot shorter than Des Bryant and some of your other bigger receivers that have been around with the Cowboys in the past. And I just don't understand why we're not letting him run away from the defense. Instead, we're running him into the teeth of the defense and saying, out-muscle this guy. Now, some of that could be some of my other star down, right? So that's Mike McCarthy, the play caller. My other star down is the offensive line and pass protection, because you have a lot of trouble here with Tyler Guyton. Now, Tyler Guyton is not bad, right? But he's a rookie, and every week he's been going up against, like, the ace boom coon on the other side of the ball. He's got Myles Garrett coming at him. He's got Kayvon Thibodeau coming at him. He's got Matt Abuke coming at him. Like, there's players here that are like, hey, man, as Jerry Jones likes to call him, a war daddy, right? I'm the straw that stirs the drink. I'm the guy over here that when I get on this side and I go to rush the passer, the quarterback needs to know where I'm at, and I'm opening up things for the rest of the defense. That's what happens, you know what I'm saying? So Tyler Guyton right now, he's shell-shocked, right? He's holding all over the place. His hand placement is bad. His footwork is okay, but he's getting a little bit overextended. So there's just some things that are missing with him. And what's happening is, what's really missing with him is experience and time. This is his first 4 games in the NFL. No matter what he was seeing in college, he ain't seeing this. He's not seeing this. So it's just one of those things where maybe the reason why Mike McCarthy, the play caller, isn't as awesome as he needs to be is because some of the things that are going on with the offensive line. But one of the things that I always look at when we look at the really good play callers in the NFL is they find ways to help out their players, right? I said this a few episodes ago. We understand, or at least we hope we understand, because we're not delusional, right? This is the NFL. So we have to be very honest with ourselves, when we're putting together our game plan. We have to understand our weaknesses as well as the other team understands our weaknesses. We have to understand our strengths as well as the other team understands our strengths. And what we need to do is accentuate our strengths and mitigate our weaknesses. So if Tyler Guyton is having trouble with some of these things, we need to build that into the game plan and understand how to help out our young left tackle, whether it be through chips, whether it be through lining up other people over the side, whether it be through getting the ball out quickly, but not just getting the ball out quickly to our running backs in the flat. That can't be our number one play. Our number one play can't be running to the sticks and then turning a curl route and, hey, whoever opened on this curl, run 4 curl routes. Just hit one of them. That can't be the way, because that's uncreative, right? NFL teams are going to start to just sit on that. These corners are too good. These safeties are too good. Everybody else knows, right? And what a lot of teams with bad offensive linemen do is they get them on the move, right? They get the offense moving around. The Saints, for example, They played us with a couple of backup tackles. What do? They get those tackles moving out to the edges with the center, with some of the guards. You know what I'm saying? Get those guys pulling, get the running back out in space, give them the ball. Why? Because when you get people out and movement, the defense also has to move. So now when these linemen, who might not necessarily be as awesome, come out and get a block on them or get a touch on him, your running back is allowed to kind of pick his lane. And so your offensive lineman doesn't have to be awesome at blocking. If your offensive lineman blocks to the inside and gets beat to the inside, then the running back cuts to the outside. If your offensive lineman blocks to the outside and that guy goes that way and he gets beat to the outside, running back cuts to the inside. It just kind of gives you a little more freedom as far as, hey, even if we don't get the perfect block, there should still be some sort of hole or some sort of crease in the defense for us to be able to exploit it for a positive gain. We don't do that much. We did it on the screen pass to Rico Dowdle in the Giants game, and even though the blocking wasn't awesome, because you got your offensive lineman out in space and because you got your wide receiver out in space, Rico Dowdle was still able to make some people miss and get into the end zone for a touchdown. It wasn't a perfect play, but because they were out in space, you get to rely on the amazing athleticism of some of the people on your team. And you have that. You have the athleticism with Deuce Vaughn. You have that athleticism with Rico Dowdle. You have that athleticism with Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb. So you need to put some of your players in a better position as an offensive play caller to take advantage of some of their strengths, but also mitigate some of those weaknesses. And then also on the other side, star down defensively for Mike Zimmer, the defensive play caller. Against the Giants, this was a little bit better scheme-wise. But again, some of the ways that the Cowboys are being used are not the right way. For example, Kalen Carson and Trayvon Diggs. I get Zimmer's scheme is a zone scheme, and with that, it becomes, hey, we want to cover these zones, we want to drop out, we want to let the receivers do what they do, we want to pass them off, we kind of just want to cover this area and rely on our athleticism. Again, there's that word, to knock down passes, to get interceptions, to mirror in coverage. But Trayvon Diggs is a big physical corner, right? Dude's over 6 feet tall. Dude's over 200 pounds. He runs a 4.4 240. Let him cook. And then you also got Kalen Carson on the other side. I feel like the defense is more, it's built more to be a press defense. It doesn't have to be a press man defense, right? You don't have to press that guy and then follow him all over the field. But our corners are definitely built more to get up on the receivers on the outside. Now, Jordan Lewis, he's more of a Swiss Army knife, right? He can play press. He can play off. He's a slot corner. So he's used to moving around the entire field. He can carry a receiver anywhere you need to go. But the guys on the outside are more built for press coverage. And it seems like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with some of our guys on defense. And we're kind of trying to be like, hey, this is our scheme. This is what we do. Instead of being like, hey, this is what they do well. So let's let them do what they do well. And then we'll figure it out based off that. So star down to Mike Zimmer right now on the defense. The jury's still out there, just like the jury's still out on Mike McCarthy. After the bye week last year, the Cowboys went crazy. Mike McCarthy started listening to CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and all of a sudden the offense woke up. Maybe we'll get a similar thing this year, even though if you listen to me during the preseason and during training camp, I thought we would just hit the ground running with the same offense that we left off last season with. But apparently we reverted back to the same things. Like I said, it could be a number of reasons for that. It could be not trust in the rookie offensive lineman. But sometimes you just got to let it go. This is the big leagues. You ain't going to win it being conservative. You're going to win it doing what you got to do and leading on your best players and then let the chips fall where they may. And also, my third star down, and you notice none of them have been players. My third star down is the front office. The front office has let this Cowboys team down, right? we can see that the running game needs something. Not saying Rico Dowdle's bad. Not saying that Hunter Lipke's bad, because obviously I love them both. Just talked about them extensively. Not even saying Deuce Vaughn's bad. But for some reason, our loyalty to Ezekiel Elliott, and then out of all the running backs that we had a chance to go pick up and put onto the team, we go get Dalvin Cook. That's what you thought was gonna help out. And this is the problem with having an owner that's also a GM. Jerry Jones is like 186 years old. He is not the type of person that knows about new trends in the NFL. What's going on? I doubt he even knows half of the players on his team. If you asked him to name all 53 guys, no, that's not happening. He's gonna know about 12. Okay? So that's one of the problems right there. The second is the Cowboys not quite committing to what they want to do. Sometimes the Cowboys seem like they're committing to winning now, right? By paying $60 million to their quarterback and $34 million to the receiver. So that is a signal that an organization is ready to push their chips to the middle of the table, right? We got this paid, we got that paid, now let's go out, let's surround them with talent and try to take it there and win a Super Bowl. But then they draft a bunch of players, which the Cowboys are awesome at drafting, and they play those guys, right? And they're starting to take their lumps now, which I said, hey, that'll lead to the team playing better later on. That'll lead to a very sustainable business model. But there's obvious gaps on the team that should be filled with a veteran presence, right? We can say, hey, right now, if we were looking, we should have a young veteran running back there. You don't have to necessarily have a rookie, and you don't have to have a 30-year-old, but you need a young veteran there, right? We need a young veteran wide receiver right now. With the way this receiver core is performing, we could really use a young veteran wide receiver. We could use a young veteran pass rusher. Or in that case, even an older veteran pass rusher, right? We could probably use another corner. But it looks like the front office is just content with sitting on their hands. But they say that player acquisition is 24/7, 365. So they're out here telling us one thing and then doing another thing. And it's just really frustrating. It almost feels like they don't know what they're doing, right? Like they're just here. You know, they're telling us something to sell us a pipe dream so that everybody keeps following, everybody keeps watching. But the product they're putting on the field doesn't match up with the words that are coming out of their mouth. So definitely star down to the front office. Now, if we're talking about some of the things that I think are going to improve on the Cowboys, I do think the defense will improve as the season comes along, especially when DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons get back. I also do think the offensive line will improve as the season goes along. What I don't think will improve as the season goes along is the play calling and the type of offense that we're running. I don't think that's going to improve at all. So we're kind of going to be stuck there, and we're kind of just going to have to hope during playoff time, if the Cowboys even make it there, that they kind of get some luck of the draw and some of the things that they've fallen short on in the last few years start to go their way. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. You can hit me up on Twitter. That's at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also submit some questions at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You can also submit questions at knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. Again, knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. Or you can leave some comments below. Anything you want me to cover, any questions that you have, I'll take them from Twitter. I'll take them from the email. I'll take them from the comments below. Put it into a mailbag, make it a formal segment, something routine, something regular. But I love you guys. We're up to 21 subscribers. I thank you guys for always tuning in. Until next time, I'm your host, J Mill if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.